Hey guys, Star77 Productions here, and we are a YouTube channel, and we do product reviews for stuff that you can purchase on Amazon that we highly recommend, and that you can follow the links in the description to purchase the products yourself. So this one is going to be regarding a PC build that I most recently did, and you can do this build for about $1,000, kind of depending on what type of graphics card you get. I recommend doing this PC build and then maybe getting a cheaper graphics card and updating to a more expensive one later, when the market kind of slows down and graphics cards are a little bit more reasonably priced. But this is a great kind of intermediate level PC build that'll get you into all sorts of gaming, video editing, and just kind of a high powered, good looking PC, as you can see here. So first I'll kind of bring you in, show you all the components, everything that I set up in my in-home system here, and then look at the PC specifically, start walking you through the different components. Then I'll kind of tell you about how I went through building this, the YouTube videos that I followed, and how to get the software up and running. And it is actually quite the easy process. So if you kind of order all these pieces to make this PC, spend about maybe 3 to 4 hours building it, following some video tutorials, you will be up and running in no time. I even have Windows on here, and I have an unactivated version of Windows, and I've been running that for probably like 4 or 5 months now and haven't even really needed to activate it. So this can all be done pretty cheaply, around $1,000, and let's start looking at some of these components a little bit closer here. So the actual PC is housed in a Corsair, and that is the 220T RGB white case. And you can get that in kind of white or black. I chose the white. It's got 3 120mm fans up front, and it is a mid-tier case, so it's not too terribly large, but it's not one of those compact minis either. So it is a pretty good looking case. You can see if we slightly tilt it here what we're working with on the inside. And it all fits in there quite neatly, and we'll start going through everything that I used to kind of build this out, and I'll have a complete list in there, but it is a pretty cool looking PC. I just need to maybe tidy up those cords just a little bit. And then to go with it, I got one of the cheaper Corsair, I think it was $50 RGB gaming keyboards. Then the one of the better mouses that you can get, that is the Logitech G series. I think it's like the 502 or something. A 24-inch Acer monitor. I can put the link to that as well. Then I got 2 cheap speakers from Walmart. They were 20 bucks. And then using a Netgear dual band router, which is quite nice if someone's doing remote work. You can be on the 2.5 band, and if you are gaming, you can be like on the 5.0, which is a little bit faster, but you have to be closer to the modem. So that's kind of an up close look at it. It's a really nice tower. The tower, I believe, was $109. You might be able to get them on sale. They have the 3 120 fans in the front there. You can control these colors with a software. They have a nice viewing glass here. Separate cage down here, and that's where you can store your power supply. You can store any sort of external hard drives that you might have. And you can bundle up quite a few of the power cords down here as well. Alright, so that was kind of a quick walkthrough of everything that I got going on here. I'll put links to all this stuff because buying all this stuff, of course, would be over the $1,000 mark, but it is one heck of a setup to get you up and gaming and doing high-powered stuff on your PC. Okay, so back to the PC build. So the case is the Corsair 220T RGB mid-tower gaming case. And this one was $109, and it's got the 3 fans that come with it. It's got a couple of trays for your hard drives. It's got the clear case on the outside. And it's got this awesome housing unit down below to hold the power supply. Any external hard drives that you might have, you can dock these 2 bays down in there. And then it can pretty much house, since it's a mid-tower, just about any motherboard except for the extremely large motherboards for one of your full tower gaming builds. But this one will do for just about any build, reasonable build, and graphics card. So I stuck with the mid-tower just because it's a little bit more smaller, uncompact, and fits in a little bit better areas. Okay, so now moving on to the motherboard. I went with the B550 Phantom Gaming 4. And of course it's specifically made for AMD chipsets, the Ryzen. And this one has all sorts of features. It fits almost like perfectly inside this case. So, I mean, yeah, I think there was only like an inch to spare, so this one fits in there perfectly. You can add multiple upgrades as you would like, and you will be able to keep it in that tower without having to worry about it. I won't go through all the specifics here, but you can see it's got quite a few ports. It's got the ports on the back side plus the ports on the top, so plenty of USB, HDMI, plenty of areas to put. You can have an onboard like the M2 solid state drives on it, or you have plenty of slots to have your SATA connected disk drives on the outside as well. Okay, and then for the processor, I went with the AMD Ryzen 3rd Gen, and this is the Ryzen 5. And so this one is right there in the middle of the pack. It's the AMD Ryzen 5 3600. It's got 6 cores to it, and it operates at about 4.2 gigahertz if you max it out, and it stabilizes at about 3.6 gigahertz base with 12 threads in it. So this one was super easy to install on that B55 motherboard, and it just comes. I just used the house fan with it since I don't game too terribly hard. I didn't want to spend the money and get that upgraded liquid cool or anything. I just used the CPU fan that it came with, and it's been working great and not too terribly loud. I didn't want a really loud PC, so with those 2 front fans, there, you could always upgrade and add an external fan in the back to kind of push more air out, but I haven't been overheating at all. I have, the display here, and I usually don't go anywhere over like 80 degrees Celsius for my GPU unit. Alright, and then moving on, we talked about the motherboard, we talked about the CPU that I used. I think the motherboard was about $109. The CPU, I can't quite remember, I think it was $200. Now I did save money by buying my RAM used, and I went with 2 8GB sticks, 3600 megahertz, and the DDR4. These are pretty expensive new. I think they're like $109 new, but I just bought them used on eBay for 60 bucks, so I'll include some links on there as well. But these work really well, and of course when you're updating your BIOS and going through your BIOS in your motherboard, you'll need to make sure that you specify that you're using 3600 megahertz RAM, because otherwise it's just going to clock it at the base settings and you're really going to kind of waste your RAM if you don't specifically tell it you're running these high level quality RAM. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Other than that, it was pretty easy to build. And then instead of getting like a hard disk drive, you know, everyone's doing the solid state disk drives these days. And this one's even better. This one just converts right into your motherboard through the, what is it called? The M2 slot. Yeah, M2, and then it's the 2280 port. So it just ports right there. You can't quite see it, but it's right underneath my graphics card. You just push this right in, screw it down into the motherboard, and it is a super speedy solid state drive. So this one has a 1 terabyte. I really haven't installed anything else, but what I would recommend is that when you do save up a little bit more money, because you know, getting another solid state drive will put you way over that $1,000 mark, but get the Samsung solid state drive. I think they're only like 2 or 3 inches, and they come with a SATA cable. So you just hook that in to your motherboard there and then route it down into where you put your power supply, and that way you can run your games and keep a lot of your processing to this solid state drive that just lands right on your motherboard, and then save any of your larger games or larger movies or larger files onto your other external hard or a solid state drive. Okay, so that's the CPU, the motherboard, the RAM. Now the graphics card that I have in here is the Asus 580 RX, I believe. So it's a pretty higher end one. I had to get this one used as well because graphics cards are incredibly hard to get these days, since so many people are working from home, so many people are gaming, so many people are mining for Bitcoin. So I just got this one used. But I would say get something that'll fit your purposes. I'll put a couple of the GeForce I think the 1590s on there to get you started, but then upgrade, you know, in the future when those prices are a little bit more reasonable. But I got this used and it was about $190, but I bought that before the prices were really inflated, and just went with it now as I got the rest of my PC components. So I'll put a couple of links to that as well. And then, I mean, we're getting close to that's all you really need. You also need your power supply. And you want to go with a modular power supply. This one's a semi-modular. It's a little bit cheaper, but it means that you don't have to have all these cords running out of it. You can just use the cords that you want. I'm really only running the main power unit, and then 1 unit up to my graphics card, and then 1 unit to kind of power the motherboard. And for $75, it's not too bad. And 650 watts might be just a tad bit overkill. You could probably get away with 500 or 600, but this one was on sale a little bit as well, so I went with this power supply. And then, so that's how you get the PC to be kind of in that price range. And here's a storage bay that it comes with. I haven't used it because I haven't bought any hard disk drives to store inside there, but you can see that there's quite a bit of extra room for stuff to add on later. You know, you don't want to kill your budget right up front, but you have plenty of space to add stuff on as you get started. And then I will link the YouTube video that I used to build my PC. That guy was fabulous, and I got it done within 3 to 4 hours. Looking back on it now, if I knew what I was doing, I could get it done in like 20 minutes probably. The only thing you really need is just to follow that video. Make sure you're static proof. I'll put a link to the bracelet that I got, which is like $8 at Best Buy. You just ground this, and you can ground this to your power supply as long as it's in the outlet, and it's not powered on. So it'll just use the ground to your house, or you can ground it something, you know, anything else that's metal and grounded. So that's a must-have. And then you just start going through building these components, following that video. And then to get it up and running is pretty easy too. I just used another YouTube video, and basically you just download a copy of Windows, get that on a memory stick, and you follow the directions there. First you have to boot up the computer, make sure that it boots up to the BIOS, which is just like the it's kind of the dashboard and the interface that gets you talking with the motherboard and the CPU, and it kind of shows you what your memory is, what you're rocking on your motherboard, and pertinent information regarding your CPU and whether or not it's recognizing the GPU. And so you'll see everything set up and running. I really didn't have to do anything extra except for, like I said, change the specifications for the RAM so that it would recognize more high-powered RAM. And then once it looks good and the interface is working, you restart it and restart it to boot up on your Windows drive here, and Windows will just start booting up, and then you'll go through the setup process, and it works perfectly. So I mean, like I said, I wasn't out too much money. I just watched 2 different videos on how to build it, how to get the software up and running, and I was good to go. So let me link all of that stuff there, and hopefully in this video I can just kind of help you build a similar build to mine that'll help you game and help you get what you want out of it. So any questions, just let me know, and I will have all those links down below. So thanks a lot.